We think ourselves a monolith. Humanity is the center of the universe. So wise, all history revolves around us. But that is an insular perspective. The world has existed long before us, and will exist long after us. And there are things that have been here long before us, and will be here long after us. The Oldest View is a series by KanePixels, which I've covered before. It's complicated and nuanced, so I'm only going to do a short summary here. Our current protagonist is named Wyatt. Wyatt finds a mysterious mall at the bottom of a nearly never-ending staircase, and encounters an otherworldly being there taking the form of a sculpture that stalks him within this area. After experiencing a paranormal shift within this location, the mall becoming more overgrown and more dilapidated than it already was, Wyatt falls to his death as he attempts to escape. Or does he? If you want the full story, I recommend you watch the series on KanePixels' YouTube channel and then follow up by watching my video that covers the entire thing, both of which will be linked below in the description. This video is a follow-up examining the newest part in this series, The Oldest View, Dispersal. Now that we've got that out of the way, let's begin. The Oldest View Dispersal starts ominously enough with what seems to be the door from the previous parts, with plants having grown up around it. It also seems like it's in a larger room or just somewhere else. In the distance, we can hear what I assume to be Wyatt's death scream from the rolling giant. And then the ambience cuts to fuzz. All we hear, besides the fuzz of the mic, is a loud creak as the door slowly opens. No, not opens. It distorts. It pulls away. It doesn't simply open. It comes off of its hinges and moves away from that arch. We then see the doorway now leads to another place. The mall is gone. A forest, dark, in the twilight. The staircase Wyatt came down, still leading up, is there, but into a place unknown now. Possibly, no, even likely, whatever world was overtaking the mall before has completely saturated it. The mall is no longer. All there is this dark mirror of the forest. No, an image of what the forest used to be. We hear that distant speaking that sounded almost like a sermon to me, and it cuts to show that it's actually a press conference for Dallas Midtown. The building project that was and is going to replace the Valley View Center Mall. If I can be presumptive, it seems that the almost sermon-like speaking we heard in the rolling giant that was distorted was actually just this man speaking.
To CC Broadnex for coming, members of the media, and residents.
We then cut back to the mysterious hole in our world and the odd place that it leads to, seemingly a forest at night. Wyatt lies dead. We see the flags of the giant overlaid over a monochrome sky. A light begins to peek up in the darkness, falling upon the face of the giant. We return to that fatal moment that led to Wyatt's death previously, but it doesn't seem different than before until Wyatt escapes. Or seems to. Was he given a second chance? Or could the giant only get out if Wyatt did as well? Wyatt looks back down the stairs, hearing noises from the mall he'd just been in. He also sees this strange rectangular hole in the wall that was not there once before. He of course escapes up the stairs, running up them as fast as he can, terrified for his life as any person would be. The stairs do seem longer than before, and are even differently shaped. We can still hear noises deep down below him, the echo of something behind him that's taking place, that place that's trapped in time, possibly disappearing. Wyatt does manage to escape, but something seems wrong. We see an overview shot of him running through the park that led him to this place, but the music does not sound victorious. It doesn't sound joyful. It sounds ominous. It sounds terrifying, like something is going to happen. The forest still looks lush and green and vibrant, but we're not seeing it from Wyatt's perspective like before. In fact, he's not even using his phone to record anymore like he was. Before Wyatt reaches his car, we're given a factoid. Anatomically modern humans have existed for roughly 300,000 years. Recorded history accounts for 1.6% of that time. Wyatt, sitting in his car, breathes a sigh of relief. He starts his car. His phone seems to be offline. We might think for a moment that maybe he's been taken to some other version of his world. But a car drives by. It seems that all is normal, all is fine. He starts a song up as his car starts and he drives off. The final shot is seemingly from the giant's perspective. Out in the world, rolling along the streets. What does this all mean? So of course in my previous video we talked more about the meaning of everything, how I felt that the oldest view as a series was about the passing of time, being forgotten, and death, how things have life through our understanding of them as people, our memories and experiences. I feel like I say this a lot when covering YouTube horror videos and analog horror, but this video has so much going on in such a short time. I really like that my theory that that door was like a portal, that little room was, it was basically confirmed, like as literal as you can get. That doorway was a place to another world, something paranormal, and it's really cool. I really like the way he did it. It floating away almost like the Twilight Zone was just really neat. If we want to go by the press conference that we see in the video, that would mean that Wyatt's delved into this underground version of the Valley View Center Mall the second time was roughly around May 23rd, because that is when this press conference took place. It's hard to get a real grip on what has happened, when, and why. Almost as soon as Wyatt dies, it seems that I was right in my assumption that this was a little pocket dimension. This was a place that was part of our world for a moment, but also not part of our world. It was like a paranormal crossover type situation. It was a instance in time that was not meant to be there. It was the mall, and then it was the forest. It was a paranormal oddity. The color drops, the door fades away. It doesn't open as much as just like pull away and freeze and fade away. This dark underground forest is there now, seemingly a mirror of the one above or something like that, something more ethereal maybe. But it is very dark and in this ever-present state seemingly of night. And then we see this strange light. We see it opens up above and then shines down on the giant like God speaking out to him or something like that. And then Wyatt is seemingly brought back to that time, and instead of falling and dying, he manages to escape. But this second version of our ending has some mystery and non-mystery. Before, the giant just kind of disappeared, and I was left wondering, like, where did it go in the Rolling Giant? It just kind of disappears, and then Wyatt falls to his death. In this version, it is a bit less mysterious in that regard. As the title of this episode is called Dispersal, Wyatt to me is in essence carrying the giant with him, or whatever has happened has allowed the giant to escape this little world that it was within by itself. I don't necessarily think it's a specific spirit like that of Julian Reverchon or anything like that. It more seems to be some type of other entity, as I said in my previous video. Possibly a representation of a concept or an amalgamation of human emotion. That is what a poltergeist is basically a bunch of energies that become something, and the giant could definitely be that. Wyatt is still alive and does seem to be himself, but this is only on the virtue that he is now carrying a passenger. That ending shot of the giant rolling down the roads, to me, reads not as it's speeding along the roads on its own, but instead, Wyatt's car speeding along and the giant is there in the car with him. You can take that as a positive or negative. It does seem kind of ominous to me. It's just really hard to say whether or not there is some kind of malevolence to all this. It seems that something gave the giant and even Wyatt a second chance, but the only way was to have Wyatt die and then brought back to life, almost like it could be slotted into him or something like that. This other world, whatever it is, this mysterious light, whether the giant itself or something else is down there, it made this. It's just so interesting, and it leaves me wondering, like, if there is going to be more for the series, where's it going to go? If we go off of the text that is directly within this video itself, the message is incredibly interesting to me. If the previous parts as an amalgamation were about time and the decay of things and how things are within our memory and created by people and then they pass away and we move on. This message feels a bit more eerie to me, a bit more ominous, a bit more sinister. You know, we've been around as human beings for 300,000 years, as it says, and only a handful of thousands of years are accounted for in our history. And that doesn't even account for the rest of time before us. There is a lot of stuff we don't know about. There's so much that we didn't experience, so much that we don't have records of, that we don't know about. This reads as, to me at least, the idea of how little humans really understand and how little us as a species have experienced things. Even with all of our advanced technology, even if we think we've existed for a long time because our consciousness kind of makes us the center of our own universe, we really haven't, and the world is much older than us, and there are things in it that we don't understand. We are minuscule in the grand scheme of things. There are things in our oceans that are, like, crazy and older than humanity, and that's just weird to think about. And there is just so much within the world that we can discover. Some of it is going to be horrifying and strange, and I really like that. In the ultimate oldest view analysis that I did, part of it was me talking about how there was that structure and how ancient it was, and like all of these paranormal things, that theory about Gozer and the idea of some type of ancient god. And yeah, there could be entities and things that existed before humanity that are still within our world, within this little universe of the oldest few, and that's just really fun to think about for me. I definitely think that this episode, or part of the oldest view, is more focused on the in-world storytelling than a point like the original ones were, but I also do think it is still trying to make a point. KanePixels basically put text in the middle of it to kind of tell you part of what that point is. It's that, you know, we know a lot of things, we have a lot of history, but there's a lot of things we don't know, and a lot of things that we're not aware of, and things that have been forgotten that are still there. Anyway, this video was a huge surprise for me. I was very excited to see it pop up in my subscription feed, and also to write this little analysis for you. I do look forward to more parts, and yes, this is short, but that's because, really, this is a very concise little part. I saw a comment that said that this felt like more of a prelude to something bigger happening, and I definitely agree. It's very heavy, it's very ominous. Even though Wyatt has gotten out, it feels like something is not right with the world that he's returned to. That ambient track that plays as he's running through the forest, the camera shots, it's all very beautiful, all very spooky. I also do just love paranormal stuff like this. I'm glad that we get things like this on YouTube. There aren't jump scares, it's just this ominous tension building. We don't know what's going to happen, where it's going to go next. Like, what is possible in this world that is being crafted. So, of course, I wanted to cover this ASAP. It's why we just kind of jumped right in rather than having this big explanation at the beginning. If you've watched my channel before, you know I like the oldest view, you know I've covered it. If not, go check that out. I have a playlist where I'm linking all of my long-form analyses. You can see my over an hour-long, near feature-length analysis of the oldest view right after this if you want more of that. I do think this is just really interesting, how it connects to everything else. The giant, of course, the whole please let me get what I want thing, and the connection and the idea of the giant wanting to be remembered, and then it getting out, being connected to Wyatt, and this other greater supernatural stuff going on, this light, this other world, the door pulling back, the portal, the strange monolith that we saw in Life of a Giant. I like that it has the forefront story with our main character going on of this guy experiencing these paranormal things, but also the subtext, decay and time and memory and history, and I love stuff like that because it gives you so many layers to chew on. And yeah, if we do want to look at this in a more metaphorical sense, this whole video, it seems to me that if you look at it past the idea of a possession, it's more Wyatt carries the remembrance of the giant and the things that he saw with him, and that's why it's rolling with him. It's not really actually possessing him. That's also the light. It is the thing being remembered. It is now going to be remembered forever by this one person who it scared the hell out of. Anyway, I'm GhostsOnHoliday, and remember, second chances are second chances, even if there is a embodiment of a paranormal concept within you. Good night.